I'd like to do a short video. I've been asked a lot today to explain my position on abortion, and it's an uncomfortable subject for a lot of people. And there are people with strong feelings on both sides of the issue, and I have respect for all of that. So what I'd like to do, in my personal views, are very much in line with the United Methodist Conference statements on abortion. And so I'd like to read through that first, and then I'll probably go back through it and kind of expand on a couple of the things that are brought up in that document. Again, this is available online, the United Methodist Church website. The beginning of life and the ending of life are the God-given boundaries of human existence. While individuals have always had some degree of control over when they would die, they now have the awesome power to determine when and even whether new individuals will be born. Our belief in the sanctity of unborn human life makes us reluctant to approve abortion. But we're equally bound to respect the sacredness of life and the well-being of the mother and the unborn child. We recognize tragic conflicts of life with life that may justify abortion. And in such cases, we support the legal option of abortion under proper medical procedures by certified medical providers. We support parental, guardian, or other responsible adult notification and consent before abortions can be performed on girls who have not yet reached the age of legal adulthood. We cannot affirm abortion as an acceptable means of birth control, and we unconditionally reject it as a means of gender selection or eugenics. We oppose the use of late-term abortion known as dilation and extraction or partial birth abortion, and call for the end of this practice except when the physical life of the mother is in danger and no other medical procedure is available, or in the case of severe fetal anomalies incompatible with life. This procedure shall be performed only by certified medical providers. Before providing their services, abortion providers should be required to offer women the option of anesthesia. We call all Christians to a searching and prayerful inquiry into the sorts of conditions that may cause them to consider abortion. We entrust God to provide guidance, wisdom, and discernment to those facing an unintended pregnancy. The church shall offer ministries to reduce unintended pregnancies. We commit our church to continue to provide nurturing ministries to those who terminate a pregnancy, to those in the midst of a crisis pregnancy, and to those who give birth. We mourn and are committed to promoting the diminishment of high abortion rates. The church shall encourage ministries to reduce unintended pregnancies, such as comprehensive age-appropriate sexuality education, advocacy in regard to contraception, and supportive initiatives that enhance the quality of life for all women and girls around the globe. Young adult women disproportionately face situations in which they feel that they have no choice due to financial, educational, relational, or other circumstances beyond their control. The church and its local congregations and campus ministries should be in the forefront of supporting existing ministries and developing new ministries that help such women in their community. They should also support those crisis pregnancy centers and pregnancy resource centers that compassionately help women explore all options related to unplanned pregnancy. We particularly encourage the church, the government, and social service agencies to support and facilitate the option of adoption. We affirm and encourage the church to assist the ministry of crisis pregnancy centers and the pregnancy resource centers that compassionately help women find feasible alternatives to abortion. Governmental laws and regulations do not provide all the guidance required by the informed Christian conscience. Therefore, decision concerning abortion should be made only after thoughtful and prayerful consideration by the parties involved, with medical, family, pastoral, and other appropriate counsel. I am all for reducing the demand for abortion as much as possible. There are some ways that we can do that. and for some reason we've refused to up to this point. Colorado made any type of birth control that the individual wants, and in some cases with just active addicts or places that are incentivizing them to make kind of long-lasting surgical birth control part of their lives. What Colorado did was they made any kind of birth control you want free. And they reduced abortions by 42% in the first year. I would absolutely be willing to propose that if I make it to the legislature. We also know from research that girls who participate in after-school activities, especially sports, are much less likely to experience an unintended pregnancy, while they're still in school. But we get resistance to that. We have people who don't want to pay for school levies. We live in a rural area, and a lot of girls don't have access to those kind of programs because of transportation. Their parents are working when they would be leaving those programs, and unless we as a community and as a school district supply transportation for them to get home, they don't have any way to do that. So since they can't get home, they can't participate. And if they can't participate, they become more likely to become pregnant, and that increases the demand for abortion in West Virginia. So maybe we need to quit saying that we can't afford these things. We need to put our money where our mouths are. I spoke the other day and I talked about how when the leaders of First Nations or Native American peoples would meet, one of the first questions that they would ask each other is, how are the children? And they weren't asking how that person's children were, like we do. Hey, how are your kids doing? What they were doing was asking how the people in that tribe were, because the well-being of the children is a indicator of the well-being of the community. And one of the main reasons that I'm running for office is that our children are unwell. Right now, West Virginia has somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 kids in foster placement. Somewhere between 700 and 800 of them on any given day are placed out of state because we don't have enough capable and willing homes in West Virginia to care for those children. There's been an increase in that because of the current addiction crisis, and we don't target enough resources at that. West Virginia in 2016, we were second in the nation in per capita referrals for child abuse. And, for years, when measures of health outcomes, well-being, economic issues, any of those came out, we all got used to saying, thank God for Mississippi, because if it wasn't for Mississippi, we'd be last. And now we can start thanking Utah. We can thank Utah because if it wasn't for Utah, we would lead the nation in child sexual assault. And that kind of reminds me of a story that really informs how I form my views on this. I had not been clean really long and was working at Opportunity House. I wasn't the director then, and in the first couple of years the house was open. It was co-ed, and there was a girl there. I'm just going to call her Jennifer for now. She was 19 at the time. She had a 5-year-old child. And the reason she had a 5-year-old child was that she had been repeatedly raped by her mother's boyfriend. And when she tried to tell the mother what was going on, she wasn't believed, and the mother had her own substance abuse problem, and he was the economic provider for the house, and she didn't want to hear it. She either said that Jennifer was lying, or sometimes it was Jennifer seduced him, so it wasn't his fault, because she was 13, and 13-year-olds can be seductive. But, anyways, she got pregnant by him and was forced to, by her family, have that child because of their strong religious beliefs. And basically, it had a horrible impact on her life. She wasn't allowed to say who the father was, obviously. So what she was forced to say was that she didn't know who the father was. And so from that point on, or so from 13 on, while she was still in school, she was called a whore by everybody. Because, oh, you're pregnant at 13, 14, and you don't know who the father is? But she knew. She just wasn't allowed to say. And after she had the baby, the young boy, she was in a car wreck, and it really damaged her leg. And she was on painkillers for that. And she discovered that opiates don't just handle physical pain. They don't just eliminate physical pain. They eliminated the emotional pain of the abuse and the trauma she had experienced. And she became addicted. And I was there, I was in the room when her grandmother, who had the child, and a CPS worker were berating her for the addiction, for the drug use. Yeah. What's wrong with you? You don't care about this boy who is now 5? Well, why don't you want to be a good mother? And I was there when she snapped. And she yelled back at him finally. And she said, I didn't want to be a mother. I was 13 and he kept raping me and you didn't believe me. And less than a year later, Jessica took her own life. She killed herself. And, I'm not saying it's just simply because she didn't have access to abortion due to the incest or rape. There are obviously a lot of failures along the way, societal failures, and we let it fall through the cracks. I have thought about this over the years as I've met other women. I know a woman that I dated briefly. I had a daughter at the time, was in her early mid-20s, and the daughter was a product of a rape. And I remember telling me that I love my daughter with all my heart, but every time I see her, I relive that. And so okay, after we've been together for a while on any particular day, but if I go home or she goes home and then we get back together, every time I see her again, I relive that. And that's gone a long way to informing how I feel about this issue. And I know women on the other side. I knew a woman who had chosen to have an abortion. Her husband at the time had intentionally defeated their birth control. They were using condoms and he would intentionally break them. She got pregnant, she already had several kids and wasn't ready for another one. Her father was a Pentecostal pastor and it really impacted her, it tortured her, and she would really get upset, wondering, what if I had that child? How old would he or she be now? And so that's why I don't take this lightly. I know that there are strong emotions on both sides of this. But again, there's things we can do. I have known Barbara Kincaid, who runs the Crisis Pregnancy Center here in Buchanan for years, and I think that, that's a wonderful thing. And anything we can do to reduce the demand for abortion is fine with me. Let's do that. But the problem is, We don't do that. We just want to legislate, and this whole thing came up because of this Amendment 1 issue. And we want to legislate this. We want to make it illegal for people to do this. And we know from a lot of other things that that's not going to make it go away. That there are things that we can do to reduce demand. We can support people like Barbara Kincaid and the work she does. We can support after-school programs. We can support the provision of birth control. And that will make a real impact. And that will reduce the demand. We also need to take a long, hard look at how we treat the children that we do have. We incarcerate a higher percentage of our children than any other state in the country. We already live in a country that incarcerates a higher percentage of its people than any other country, and this particular state incarcerates a higher number of women and children than any other state. Over 50% of the children who are incarcerated in West Virginia are incarcerated for status offenses. Those are offenses that would not be a crime if they were an adult. How much trauma do you think that inflicts on a child? How much more likely does that make them become one of my clients later on in life when they're addicted? Because we know there's a direct correlation between childhood trauma and addiction. There's a stronger correlation between childhood trauma and addiction than there is a correlation between obesity and diabetes. So basically that's it. I am all for anything we can do to prevent abortion. But I believe ultimately that any legislation that does not make exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother is nothing that I can support. Again, legislating this isn't going to be helpful. This is no different than when I hear people say, well, we need to just make guns illegal. Just a blanket, just get rid of all the guns. Well, that's not going to happen. The toothpaste is out of the tube. Guns are out there. So getting rid of guns is not going to be helpful. And the people that say, well, if you do that, then only criminals will have guns. They're right. And this is the same way. Abortions, making them 100% illegal is not going to stop them. There were abortions before Roe v. Wade, before all these other laws were put in place. And those laws were put in place for a reason. They were put in place because women were dying by amateurs doing them, by them trying to do that themselves. And, that's one of the really strong points, I think, of the United Methodist Conference statement on social responsibility is that, that they insist on medical providers doing these when it happens. I work in the addiction field. For the most part, controlled substances are illegal. If legality had anything to do with addiction, we wouldn't have the problem we have. Making things illegal doesn't make them go away. But I think together, I think if we put aside our differences and we understand that there are people on both sides of this issue, but nobody wants abortions to happen. Nobody's out cheering for them like, yahoo, let's go have some more abortions. Those people don't exist. Are there women who have repeated abortions because they failed to use birth control properly? Absolutely. But we can always find extremes if that's what we look for. And I think we need to all come together and work on this. What can we do to reduce demand? And I think there's some really good evidence-based solutions out there. There's ways we can do this. We can reduce the demand, or we can lower the number of abortions, and we may not eliminate them all, but we're never going to. There are, I forget how many hundreds of thousands of women in this country that have ectopic pregnancies every year. And so not being able to provide abortion for them, even though the life of the mother is at risk, guarantees the death of both of them. Or at least a very high likelihood. There's actually about 30% fatality rate for a woman who has an ectopic pregnancy would blow out her fallopian tubes because it wasn't treated. 30% of them are going to die. And, it's unnecessary. The life of the mother is valuable too. And I think we need to acknowledge that. So thank you for your time. I hope that this is something we can work on. I would like to point out as a candidate, well, these are my personal positions. I'd also hope that everybody would take in mind that I'm unafraid to talk to you about these things, whether it's on video, whether it's in person. I have spent all my day-to-day, messaging random people on Facebook about this who have asked me about it. So I thought this video would just be a way to kind of get that out to everybody and make it available. Again, I understand it's a sensitive issue. I understand there are people that don't care if the mother dies. They don't care if she was raped. They don't care if the child is a product of incest. And they're not going to vote for me, and that's okay. I knew that going in. But, I would like to point out that I am unafraid to talk to anybody about anything. I haven't hidden. My opponent hasn't been to any candidate events since after the primary. He just won't respond. And if somebody won't talk to you about these difficult issues before they're elected, what do you think the odds are that they're going to talk to you afterwards? They're going to hide. They're going to live in their little echo chambers. They're going to just meet with their friends when they come home. And that's not me. If nothing else, I am basically fearless about this. I've, through the course of my life, talked to people about difficult issues for a long time now, and I'm unafraid. And I know that not everybody's going to agree with me on everything. And I try to be open-minded. I try to look at other people's points of view. I understand that nobody's out there, trying to make the world a better or worse place. Everybody's trying to get through their own lives as best as they can. And I think that we need some more civility locally and nationally. It's destroying us. This basically hyper-partisan tribalism is how I've been referring to it. And I saw some of that today on Facebook posts about where I stand on abortion. Oh, well, because he's a Democrat, he believes this. Somebody didn't even talk to me. I get the same thing about guns. Oh, he registered as a Democrat. I was unaffiliated until right before I registered to run. But so that means he wants to take all our guns away. No, not true. So we need to quit that. We need to really learn to talk to each other and be civil again. And we've seen all too much lately, and tragedy. Where this drives. There are some unstable people among us, and it's easy to trigger them and make them do things because they've been led to believe that it's the right thing to do. And we need to learn to get along, and we need to learn how to be guided by principle and not partisanship, and work together to resolve these issues. Again, this whole video was meant to be about abortion. Nobody's for it. There's no pro-abortion. There are people who are pro-choice, and I will never vote for any legislation that does not protect against incest, rape, or life of the mother. Thanks for your time.